Okay, so I think we'll finish the Bavli tonight. And I've started working on what the Pardes is, but that's proving a little more difficult to actually figure out what they went into and what they saw. Um, we'll see how that we'll see by next week how that pans out. But again, let's jump right in. You have the source sheet in your chat box. Let me know if it's there. It's there, Barry?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Uh,
All right. So this is right. What is going to be with Acher? Right. We did Acher's life. We did his interaction with Rameir in the Babli. Now he's going to die, and we are going to judge his legacy, if you will, and then the value of his Torah without the value of one's Torah without corresponding righteousness, if you will. That this is actually tackled directly in the Babli, where it's not in the Yerushalmi, but we have an exact answer. So let's again, if you look at the middle of the first page, and here too we'll read the English together, but the Aramaic is there for you. Right?
no,
What was that?
no, I'm not seeing the text. Everyone else see is anyone else seeing the text?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So
Sorry.
in the chat, go into the chat box.
Yeah.
It should say 04 Babli Part 2.
Okay. I'll look. It's okay. Go ahead. I'm fine.
Okay, yeah. If not, if we're desperate, I could Jeff can show me how to share the screen if we really need. But right, so Acher dies, and here they actually cheat a little bit, because if you look in the first line, if you look in the Aramaic, right, it says Ki noach nafshe de Acher amre, right? They said when Acher died, they said, right? The English just when you see brackets in an English translation, that means it's not actually part of the text. It's more commentary, right? So somebody says, right? Maybe it's the angels, maybe it's not. Just make sure that's not somebody from the class. It's not. Right? Let him not be punished, and let him not enter the world to come. Right? Let him not be punished since he studied Torah regularly. Let him not enter the world to come since he sinned.
We stay
Huh.
limbo.
Right. So Jeff asked, I'll repeat it. Right. What happens to Acher? Meaning, if he's not going to get punished and he's not going to get rewarded, right? He's not going to be in the world to come. He's not going to get punished, means he's probably not going to Gehenna, which is where we assume punishment is. Where is Acher? Does he just disappear? So they don't answer that question, but I think that's a fair question, right? Maybe he just ends up nowhere. Right. The other thing which is fascinating is what in this argument, what's the relationship between Acher's Torah study and the terrible things that he
I don't
does?
know what to tell you.
Right, what is the relationship between the sins and his Torah study? Does one impact the other? Do they not? Right, what's the answer to that question? Do we think?
It has to. I mean, it has to impact it. I mean, you can't.
It can impact in a negative way. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Yes, meaning, so I will admit I have tremendous difficulty with these discussions of Acher, and how do we value his Torah, and should he still be rewarded for his Torah study if his Torah study preceded his sinning, and despite his Torah study, he either killed children or he slept with a prostitute and he violated Shabbos in order to sleep with a prostitute. Right? None of that's very good. Right? Why does his Torah study save him? Right? I think it seems in this Gemara that they're actually, at least in the mouth of the others, they're two different items with never the twain shall meet, right? Don't let him get punished because he learned Torah. Don't let him enter the world to come because he sinned. It's almost like there's the sin, there's the Torah study, and they just exist in different bubbles. Right? That's a theme that actually runs through the Gemara. And to the modern ear, it's extraordinarily difficult, right? When we take the guy who shuckles very hard but runs a Ponzi scheme and goes to jail, and then he needs a pardon from Trump, which he gets the first time, and then he does another Ponzi scheme and has to go back to jail, right? I think we're tempted to say that's false religion, right? Whatever he was doing is not worth all that much. And yet, here it seems that it is, right? Sufficient enough to save him from hell. He's not going to hell. He's not going to heaven, right? Which Jeff's question stands. I don't have a good answer. I don't know when, right? Then where does he end up? It's a good question. But they seem to me to be two different items that don't impact on each other. And that's one opinion. Rav Meir, as we've seen all along, Rav Meir is not going to like that because Rav Meir's agenda in the Yerushalmi and the Bavli is to save his Rebbe. All he wants to do is save Acher. He wants to get him out. He wants to. Right. So if you look at B, Rav Meir says, "When I die, I shall cause smoke to rise from his grave," and it happened. When Rav Meir died, smoke rose from Acher's grave. How does that argue with the first source? Right? What does Rav Meir think should happen to Acher? What is the smoke? Probably, I would think, right? What happens to you in hell? There's fire, right? It seems like Rav Meir says, no, let's punish him, and let him get his reward. Yeah, he has to be punished, right? Let's light him on fire, quote unquote. Let's send him to hell, but at least let him get his reward. He'll suffer, and then he has to enter the world to come. And that's what Rav Meir does. It seems that Rav Meir lights his Rebbe on fire, metaphysically or metaphorically or something. I don't know what the right word is. I'm not sure exactly what the right word is. Taking an English course in a number of decades. I don't remember my professor's name, but she would be very, very not proud of me right now. She was excellent, but Jacobson, Mrs. Jacobson, would not be proud of me now.
She won't tell.
I don't think she's listening. She was a fabulous literature professor. And then comes Rav Yochanan. Look at C. Rav Yochanan has the most extreme. Right? Rav Yochanan says, what a mighty deed to burn his master with fire. Right? Which means that was very impressive, Rav Meir. You went and you torched him so he could get into the world to come. Good for you. That was, took some courage. One was among us, and we can't save him. Right? Meaning Rav Yochanan wants to do better than Rav Meir. Rav Yochanan wants to save Acher, maybe without the punishment. He says, if I were to take him by the hand, who would tear him away from me? When I die, I will extinguish the smoke from his grave. And when Rav Yochanan died, the smoke ceased from the grave of Acher. The eulogizer says of Rav Yochanan, even the guard of the gate of Gehenna of hell could not stand before you, our master. Right? What is now? This is actually fascinating. Right? What Rav Yochanan says, good for you, Rav Meir. Don't leave him in limbo. Don't leave him in nowhere's land. Let's get him out. So, but Rav Meir decided he should suffer. Rav Yochanan decided he shouldn't even suffer. I'm going to take him by the hand, and I am going to get him out, and the smoke's going to stop. How does that work? That's the question right now. How does that work? It's not a magic trick.
Somehow the zechus of Rav Yochanan, though.
Either the zechus of Rav Yochanan, or maybe some of the Torah that he learned from Acher. Maybe it's the generation below, but somehow Rav Yochanan has the merit, and I would imagine, I would hope, I think, right, that some of that might be from Acher's Torah that is passed down, that he can schlep Acher along and cause the fire to stop, the smoke stops. And one assumes from that story that Rav Yochanan takes his hand and carries him right up through the pearly gates, which we don't believe in, but right into the world to come. Now, these are three incredibly sympathetic approaches to Acher. Acher is dead, and now we're deciding what's his legacy. What should we do to him, right? What should be his fate? What's the worst they could come up with? Nothing. The best is suffer and go to the world to come. Even better, right, is skip the suffering and go to the world to come. What's the fourth option that's not in our Gemara? Let him go to hell. Pardon my French. He should go to hell. He should burn in hell. He did terrible things, right? And he was a great person who fell, and the great ones fall harder. And again, whatever he did, it was a ginormous chilul Hashem, right? The prostitute, right? Even if he's not killing children, he's just sleeping with a prostitute, which is definitely better than killing children. Not good, but it's better than killing children. I would say violating Shabbos to get the prostitute, also better than killing many, many children. Why does nobody say, let him rot in hell? I think that's a legitimate position. I don't have an answer to that question, but it does highlight
Was his Torah so uniquely great that it somehow, I don't know.
Somehow, right? But it is incredibly sympathetic to Acher and his legacy and what should happen to him. So again, I'll say what I said at the beginning. It doesn't, and the next part's not going to sit right with me either. I think today although, so I'll say it like this. Right, let's take, I mean, Barry Freundel didn't leave us any real Torah, and what he did was wildly and utterly despicable. But even a guy like Mati Elon, who was also accused of doing bad things to little children, right? Not very good, right? And right, do we not learn his Torah because there's no value in it, or because we don't want to give the respect to a pedophile? What do you think is the answer to that question? That's an interesting question. Right. It's an interesting question. So I'm with Lori, right? I'm not sure. Let's say that he's got some wires that are misfiring in his brain, and that causes him to want to abuse little children sexually, and he can't stop it, and he doesn't stop it, or he doesn't, whatever it is. I'm not sure that means that the way he read the Chumash or Dvar Torah he gave doesn't actually make sense, right? So on that score, I think I would agree with the Gemara. But I agree with Lori, nobody should be reading it because why give that guy any honor? He doesn't deserve any. He's done horrific things. Right? We should throw him out, throw his books out.
Plus, how
Right.
can you respect what he's learned? Like,
So how can you respect what he's learned? So now we're back to the other point, and that's the crux of this Gemara. And it's a fascinating question because I think intellectually, so I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I don't know how, I don't know how pedophiles work. Thank God. I have actually no contact with anyone like that, which is
thank
a
God.
blessing. Yeah, thank God. Brothers of Israel, none of that. Thank God we have none of that. It's a holy shul. In the city, we had a dentist who did bad things, not to children but to women. Bad things. Went away for 9 years. They're less holy than we are. We're a holy shul. So I don't know, right, what part of the brain, but Mati alone had good divrei Torah. Right, he was very, very, very smart. Some of his analysis, I'm sure, was spot on. I haven't read anything in years, and I never really was somebody who read his stuff. But I would imagine that standing alone, if you took his name off the book, people would enjoy reading the book, right? So there's three questions. Is there value in that Torah? The answer might be yes, if you could make it anonymous. Should you be reading it if you know it's his? I think the answer is no, because he should not be getting any honor. Maybe a different sin, maybe we can be a little more lax. Maybe not. Depends. But I don't think. Right. The other question is, should his Torah learning save him from what he did? Right, which is the third question, which is actually the Gemara's first question. On that score, I really have tremendous difficulty thinking that it should. Right. But the Gemara does not agree with me. I don't know what to do with that. I don't know what to do with that. But I would think we shouldn't be reading it. I would think there might be some independent value to the work as academic intellectual work, because it might actually make sense, even though we shouldn't be reading it. But I really don't think that Torah learning should be standing him in good stead. But what do I know? Apparently not so much. But the Gemara is, as I said, very sympathetic to the fate of Elisha ben Avuya, right, where he gets entry into the world to come. Now, if he didn't kill children, we can maybe we might have more of a shot. But that's the first question: is should it stand him in good stead? Should it actually save him? And it seems that it's the end of the Gemara, right? Because the order of progression that they do it in the Gemara is from least to second to most sympathetic. Right? If it's building up to it, it seems that the impression we're left with is, and I don't know if there are three different opinions, but if you read it as it's happening, which is the way the story is told, it seems like he goes to heaven. Which again might be an argument against his mass murder of children, right? I think, and that does not appear in the Bavli as a primary, so that might also help. Okay, right. The next, which is another fascinating question, right? What do you do with Baruch Lanner's children? Sorry, Freudian slip, but that's a real question.
Talk about that.
Yeah, no, but like his children didn't do anything, right? His children might be lovely, wonderful, sweet people. His wife might be a wonderful, lovely, sweet person, despite him being a terrible, right, sinning human being. So look at the next piece in the Gemara. 4. The daughter of Acha came before Yehuda Nasi, and she says to him, "My master, support me." Right? I guess you don't get a lot of support being Acher's kid. Right? That's not a good fundraising pitch. My father was Elisha ben Avuya. You tricked the prostitute by violating Shabbos. Can you help me? That is not a good schnorring pitch. I'm pretty sure. It would not convince me to part with money for my discussion. So she comes before Rabbi Yehuda says, "My master, support me." He says to her, "My daughter, whose daughter are you?" She says to him, "The daughter of Acher." I don't know. That's a typo. Sorry. He said, "Is there still his seed in this world?" Right? Meaning, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi assumes he's so bad, and not only should he be wiped out, his whole progeny should be wiped off the face of the earth. Right? Like Korach. Oh, except Korach. There's the rub, right? Korach's children didn't die. But that we'll leave for a different time. Right? He quotes his pasuk in Eob, he has no breed amongst his people, no survivor where he once lived. That if you're really bad, you should be, right? You and your whole family should be wiped out. So she says, if you turn over the page, "My master, remember his Torah and do not remember his deeds. Fire came down from heaven and tried to burn Rebbe, not the daughter, not the grave. Fire now is trying, like the fire motif is a big motif here. Fire is trying to burn Rebbe. Rebbe wept and says, if this happens for those who dishonor her Torah, how much more so for those who respect her." Right? If God sends a fire down to burn Rebbe for not taking care of sinner Acher's child, how much more so for a real Talmid Chacham who's properly behaved? What is HaKadosh Baruch Hu going to do for you? Right? So in addition to the fascinating, fire motif that runs throughout all the stories, here also you see there's the Torah and there are the deeds and they're separate. If you were Acher's daughter and you came for help, what claim would you make?
Just Torah learning.
So that's the claim here. Forget this Gemara. What claim would you make?
I have nothing to do with him.
I didn't do it. I didn't sleep with a prostitute. I didn't violate Shabbos. I didn't kill children. I didn't do anything.
If anything, maybe I was abused. Maybe.
Maybe, who knows? Right? It couldn't have been fun to be Acher's daughter, one would imagine. Right? Couldn't be good to be Acher's child. The guy's a wackadoodle. Nobody's right. But what that shows you is the Gemara has it's not concerned with should we support Acher's child or not. I don't think that's the crux or focus of this Gemara. The focus of the Gemara is there are his deeds and there are his Torah, and they're separate, right? For some reason, again, that I'm struggling with, this Gemara too, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, who compiles the Mishnah, he's not a slouch, right? Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi is of the greats. He initially thinks like me, because then God almost burns him, so I don't know what that says about me, right? But he thinks Acher is so bad he shouldn't have any children left. And then he comes to learn, taught by Acher's daughter, there's still value in his Torah. That's clearly the focus, because Lori's right. She should come and say, I'm a poor woman who the community has abandoned because they don't like my father, but I didn't do it. I'm not my father. Right? I shouldn't suffer from my father's sins. Right? That takes us back to, I cannot even imagine who the rabbi on Baruch Lanner's kids' shidduch resume was. Right? Because I serve in that capacity for other people. And for various situations, and those are without a sexual abuse component, incredibly difficult conversations to have. I can't even imagine how some poor rabbi had to try and convince some family that their kid should go out with Baruch Lanner's kid. I don't even know, right? Even though that his children had nothing to do with his sins. Right? I don't think it's genetic. But that again, that's just what I don't think. Don't take that as any kind of a real opinion.
Very hard question.
These are very hard questions, right? And there's the Gemara struggling with them. But what it seems to me is the Gemara is really struggling and really cares and is really focused only on one thing: his Torah and his deeds, right? And it runs through the entire Gemara. Is there value in his Torah And should it work for his children? Should it work for him? And that's the first two sections. Now the Bavli asks what the Yerushalmi doesn't. So look at the third section, right? And this is a different question. This is a question not does it hold any kind of merit for Elisha ben Avuya. This is now turning the table onto Rabbi Meir. Right? How did Rabbi Meir learn Torah from Acher? Right? That's a very good question. Right? Didn't Rabbi Bar Chana say that Rabbi Yochanan said, what is the meaning of for the lips of a priest guard knowledge, and men seek rulings from his mouth, ki malach Hashem tzvakot, right? He is the malach, the angel, the messenger of the Lord of hosts. That is a pasuk from Malachi. From there, the Gemara learns if the master is similar to the malach of the Lord of hosts, right? Meaning if the Torah teacher is like a malach, great, righteous, holy, pure, then they should seek Torah from his mouth. And if not, do not seek Torah from his mouth. Right? The opening salvo of the Gemara is Meir was wrong. You can't learn from someone like this. He's a terrible person. You want the person you're learning from. Again, nobody really thinks we mean to resemble an actual angel, but should be a good person. It shouldn't be somebody who sleeps with prostitutes. It shouldn't be somebody who kills children. It shouldn't be somebody who takes people away from Torah. It should be somebody who models the values that they are teaching. And that's the question. So Reish Lakish answers. Let's look at the answers. Rav Meir found a verse and expounded it. Incline your ear and listen to the words of the sages. Pay attention to my wisdom. Right? If that sounded better in Hebrew. Right? Where it says, Hat oznecha ushma divrei chachamim. Right? Turn your ears, listen to the words of the sages. V'libcha tashit l'da'ati. Right? And your heart put to my da'at. So it goes from the words of the chachamim to my da'at, which is God's, meaning Hashem's da'at. Right? Pay attention to my wisdom. It doesn't say to their wisdom, but to my wisdom. Right? It doesn't say the rabbi's wisdom, but to my wisdom, which seems to say that if somebody can actually achieve and show you Hashem's wisdom, you should listen, even if, and it's almost disconnected from the chachamim from them. All we care about is getting to God's wisdom, and that is all that is important. Rabbi Chanina says, this is in B, right? From here, take heed, daughter, and note, incline your ear, forget your people and your father's house. Right? Which essentially means forget your people and your father's house is forget the deeds and just listen and focus. And if it's good, you should accept it. Right? When Rav Dimi came up, let's just read this and then we'll kind of go back and look at all three together. Rav Dimi came up from Israel. He said, they say in the West, eat the date and throw away the peel. Right? That also sounds better in Hebrew. But Rava expounded, what is it written when I went down to the nut grove to see the budding of the veil? Right? Why are the words of Torah compared to a nut? That actually has a lot of, we go a lot of different ways with that, but let's leave that alone for now. To tell you that just as a nut, even though it's dirty with mud and filth, its inside is not soiled, so too a sage, even though he sins, his Torah is not soiled. Right? Difficult, right? It's but each of those essentially says, focus on the Torah and forget the deeds. The Torah is the nut kernel. The Torah is God's word, right? The Torah is incline your ear and listen, and you can forget everything else. Now, again, this is a question of how do you learn Torah from somebody? I think that question is slightly problematic, but slightly, for me, less problematic than why it saves him. Right? I have more issues with why it should save him than why I still don't think we should be learning that Torah. Clearly, the Gemara disagrees with me. Although, now let's actually take a step back. Does the Gemara disagree with me or not? How do we actually leave this? Seems to be that it's a machloket, meaning did we ever refute the first question? Did we refute Rabba bar Chana? Rabba bar Chana says if the teacher is not holy and pure, don't seek Torah from his mouth. Did anyone ever reject him? No. Rav Meir finds another verse. And then Rav Chanina finds a verse. Now, what's interesting also is that Rav Dimi doesn't find the pasuk. He has a logical argument. But no matter, it might be 3 verses 1, but it's not 3 verses 0. Right? The Gemara is left with Rav Meir being able to justify himself. But let's not forget Rabba bar Chana. He thinks this is a travesty. He could be your guy, Lori.
Yes.
He is. All right, Lori's fully lock, stock, and barrel with Rabba bar Chana. I think I'm pretty much with him too. But it ends that as opposed to Acher being saved, which it seems the Gemara kind of goes to at the end, whether we should study from his Torah at the end of the Gemara is not as clear as whether he is saved. It seems like it's a machloket. Right? The last piece gives us the same impression as well. And this is an amazing piece. Let's look at it. Rabba bar Rav Shela came upon Elijah, comes to Eliyahu Hanavi, and he says to him, right, what is the Holy One, blessed be he, doing? Right, that's always a great question. What is God doing now? About to toast Acher. Right? So he says no. He says to him, he recites traditions from the mouths of all the rabbis, but he doesn't recite from the mouth of Rabbi Meir. Now that line alone is a staggering line. Right? What is God doing learning the Torah of the rabbis? Right? What does that mean to you? Because that is a staggering line, right? Almost like it says, and I'm sure this can mean a lot of things, that the rabbis almost are able to intuit true divinity, and therefore God is, speaking the word of the rabbis almost as if it is coming out of his mouth to give real validity to their words. I'm sure there are other explanations. That's kind of how I see this in my head. But he does not recite from the mouth of Reb Meir. So Rabba bar Rav Shela comes and he says, well, why should that be? Why doesn't God quote from Rabbi Meir? That's an amazing conversation, if it really happened. He said to him, because he learned traditions from the mouth of Acher. He says back to him, right, at some point you want Eliyahu Hanavi is going to zap him, right? But it hasn't happened yet. So what? Rav Meir found a pomegranate. He ate the inside and threw away the peel. Okay? Right? Meaning he's defending Rav Meir. Rav Meir found good Torah. He threw away the peel. He didn't learn from Acher. Rav Meir, to the end of his life, remains a pretty decent guy. And the Gemara ends, he says to him, now God says, Meir, my son, says, when a human being suffers, the Shekhinah, what expression does it say? I am light in my head, I'm light in my hand. If I am saddened so on the account of the blood of the wicked who are killed, how much more so for the blood of the righteous that is spilled. The Gemara ends with God changing his mind. God changes his mind and quotes something from the name of Rabbi Meir. Now, what's fascinating is, what does he quote from Rabbi Meir? How does that relate to Acher? Right? Maybe he's saddened about Acher dying, right? The saddened on the account of the blood of the wicked who are killed. but it seems at the end of our Gemara, Rabba bar Rav Shela has bested Eliyahu Hanavi and God, because God quotes from Rav Meir, although the quote from Rav Meir might be like a little dig right back at Rabba bar Rav Shela if Acher is the one who was being killed, etc. But again, I think, I'll just sum up, then I'll take any questions. It seems very much that the Gemara in the Bavli is quite sympathetic to Acher, despite the things that he has done and the acknowledgement of misdeeds and wrong deeds. They're at least debating whether they should learn his Torah, and debating how much his Torah should be in a merit to him, and that it seems it should be towards the end of the Gemara, and that's where the Bavli leaves it. Again, different. We don't see any of this in the Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi doesn't have any of this. Maybe he did tshuva at the end of his life in the Yerushalmi, and maybe he did. If he did, God bless him. But this is very different. The Gemara seems to go out of its way to prove that his Torah is worthwhile, despite all the terrible things that he did. And again, that I'm going to remain a Rabba bar Chana guy till the end. So with that, we finish the Bavli's account. I hope next week that we can actually take a stab at what is the Pardes, right? Where the beginning of this story, which is they entered the Pardes. What is that, and how does it impact you? But with that, we'll close that. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Can I say something?
You can say whatever you want. Absolutely.
Oh, okay. So getting back to it's sort of parallel. When the whole scandal broke with Rabbi Lanner, and everybody's going, in a sense, it's a Greek tragedy. He had such potential. And the truth is, look, we were in the thick of it. He taught our kids. He was
Right.
an unbelievable physics teacher, never mind everything else. And he was an unbelievable teacher. So possibly, yes, what he did was awful. Yes, whatever the Acher does is horrible. But what about the kids, the adults, or the kids that he influenced before he went off the path, before he went nutso? So that maybe I'm not saying we should forgive him, but on the other hand, there has to be some acknowledgement that before he hit the bad part, he maybe has done tremendous good.
Off the path way before he came to Hillel.
I disagree.
Right.
He used his learning, teaching abilities to drag kids in.
Right. So let's take a step back from Baruch Lanner just for a second, right? Because listen, Judy, I agree with you. Meaning, I'm sure that Mati Elon also probably positively influenced people. I'm not saying he didn't. I'm not sure. Once you do something so terrible, I'm just not sure or convinced that whatever merits you did actually stack up. And I think if we had to say, if we could just poof him from the picture, I think we would all have to agree that we'd rather poof him and save the victims than trying to balance what he did bad and what he did good.
I'm just saying that I don't think that anybody is, at least minus some people, basically is so evil all the time. I'm not saying he should ever teach again. Don't get me wrong. I'm with Laurie. I wouldn't read his book. Don't, but you can't erase the past either. That
No.
the tragedy is, how did you get to this? How did Acher get to this point is the tragedy. In other words, there was good. He was a brilliant scholar. He, blah, blah, blah. So you can't just pretend that half didn't exist and say, well, nothing he said is worth it.
I'm going to turn the table and put it right back to you, Judy. Do we think that Baruch Lanner should have a place in the world to come?
Oh my God.
No.
Okay,
he did something terrible.
Then we agree, right? I mean, at the end, I'm not disagreeing with you that things he did might have been good. He was very charismatic. He was very talented. He was very smart. and he was very evil. Those are all true statements.
That's why they didn't get rid of him, because he was
Right.
bringing in tons of money.
Money
to
and
the
money and kids and
organization.
whatever, right? But I think when you say, yeah, he should not go to the world to come, we are making a value judgment that the evil of his deeds overwhelm the good. Not that he didn't do good things, but that if we're putting it on a scale, the evil has far outweighed the good, and he should go down and not up, which I think is right.
Yes.
Lori's shaking her head for
I
those of you
feel
on Zoom
very
who can't
strongly.
see.
I'm
Right?
gonna fight this
So
fight.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Judy. I think he probably did. And Elisha ben Avuya did probably learn some tremendous Torah.
I had to-
But when we look back at his legacy, I think his legacy is trash, despite the fact that he learned so much Torah. I don't see it as being able to redeem him, albeit the fact that the Gemara doesn't share that view as clearly.
How much should that view, though, affect his children?
No, so that's why the children are a whole different animal. Which is why I believe that the discussion in the Gemara is not really about his children. It's about the daughter's retort, the deeds, and the Torah. Because if it was really about the children, you know, we shouldn't put parents' sins on their children and not help them.
Right.
Every rabbi in every community in the world actually faces that probably, and we've done that here. And I would never take, I would never take a father's sins out on children. It's just not, or a mother's sins or whatever the case might be. Those children deserve compassion and help like every other child. I still would not want to be the rabbi on their shidduch resume. Promise, because people are not necessarily open-minded and clear-headed when it comes to shidduch resumes in any way.
And yet he
or
teaches
form.
at that school in yeshiva in Florida, the son, Menachem.
Who?
So
No.
Rabbi Ladder's son teaches at
Yeshiva in Florida.
Catch Yeshiva, is that what it's called? Yeah. So somewhere they took your position. It's not the kid's fault.
But I to me that actually makes a lot of sense. Meaning, I would understand a yeshiva that says, "All right, let's tell that guy to go into banking." Like maybe we don't want the latter name associated with the yeshiva. I wouldn't. I might hear that, but I don't think. Right, if you have a child of someone like that who really needs help, they deserve that help the same way the child of everybody else. Right, a child or a widow or whatever. A person who needs help, and whether their parent was good or bad shouldn't impact whether we help that person. In reality, it's never that simple. But it should be.
They were pushing for Rabbi Leonard to go to Israel
You
to
just called
teach
Rabbi Leonard.
children.
Yeah.
I'm making fun.
Oh, see, I think he got defrocked.
Jeff never called him Rabbi.
Yeah.
I always called him Bernie.
Bernie, right. All right. On that happy note, wish you all a good evening, and hopefully next week we'll try and figure out what is the Pardes. Where did they go? So I wish you all a wonderful evening.
Controversy there.
Good night, Rabbi.
Good night.
Good night.